Here we are in Long Calls, Plympton, and we're going to investigate something of special interest. Perhaps you can recognise the spot by where we are, and in a few minutes we're going to go along here and we're going to go through into here. We're going to have a look at the Dissenters Cemetery at Plympton, and I'm told we're going to be going through this gate. Here we are in Plympton. What can be behind here? What history is locked behind here? How many people pass here every day with hardly a scarce look at the secrets, the heritage of why this is here and who these people are? So here we go through the gate into a world that time has passed by. A place of quietness, solitude and heritage where few people step. Yet beneath our feet is a history of the people of Plympton. Behind the gates, time stands still.
Yeah, I'm Edward. I'd just like to show you around. This is a Plympton nonconformist cemetery, and it's actually an arboretum and a nature reserve now. It's just purely here for conservation and is just an area that we leave for nature. It was actually created in 1844 by 12 dissenters from the Church of England, and they set up this graveyard here that was for people who from the Jewish faith and quite a lot of the smaller church movements who didn't want to be buried in the normal churchyards in the village. And this area here, as you can see, has been planted up since 1994 as a small arboretum. You've got two big Magnolia proctorianas here that are just coming into flower, and a big Cicidophyllum japonicum, the toffee tree here, and there's a lovely Corylopsis in full flower there. This is my trade. I'm a horticulturalist, and so these were all brought in by my father and myself. There's a huge variety of styles of gravestones around here. Most were actually created by the Gullett family, many of whom are actually buried here. And it is amazing for us as a family to actually see how these plants are grown, because that big evergreen there is a Trocadendron aurelioides. It's a member of the ivy family. That was a cutting back in 1994, as was this Cupressus glabra subspecies Arizonica. That huge tree there was just a cutting about 2 centimetres tall when I took it back in 1994.
You can't believe it, can you?
And no, it's amazing how they've grown. But we got plants from all over the world. So you've got the nice Betula albusinensis there. That's from the Himalayas. Matinus borea, that lovely evergreen, that's from South America. And we've got other ones from the Orient here. We've got the Poncirus that's about to come into flower. That's the Mexican orange blossom. And at the far end then we've got the big New Zealand snow gum. This area we're in now was we just dropped down a wall here. This was the original boundary, and then in 1865 more people were needed to be buried in consecrated ground, so they extended it. The scope of it was such that we actually had, or they actually began to bury people on the pathways. So the pathway that used to run around there has been filled in just by the addition of more interments. We still do take cremations. This is still recognised as a cemetery, but no more burials. But there are some remarkable ones in here. We've got two war grave ones here. There's a big Jewish grave on the far side there, and there's an intriguing one here, which is a double-sided one. William Lister. There was so much to write about them there that they actually wrote on the back of it as well. But most of these are family graves, so you've got at least 4 stacked burials in here, and it's one of the reasons why the graves are going a bit skew-whiff, purely because as the remains have crumbled to nothing, it's made voids, and so they're beginning to fall over a bit. But it's looked after by a dedicated band of volunteers. I mean, I've been volunteering here for best part of 30 years. We used to hand cut this whole graveyard with sickles. My father and I and my brother used to just come here and cut it all by hand. But nowadays the sward is managed for wildlife, so it's left to grow nice and tall, and it's full of slow worms, and the butterflies love it because they use these like solar panels. But it is a real place of peace and tranquility. It's a hidden little gem in Plympton, and we are open once a year for the open garden scheme, just to let people have a look around. But for the rest of the time, it's really for Mother Nature and the sleeping residents in here to bide their time in the future. But it's a special little place, and it's why I keep looking after it.
Thank you for your time.
Pleasure.